Coach Helen for You Fit Studio. I'm talking about activity versus training. Now, you may say, but Coach Helen, yeah, call me Coach Helen in many years. Helen, I don't get it. The same difference, no? You know that saying? It's the same difference. Yes and no. And I'm going to explore the reasons why. And what's been happening, I think, probably over the last so many months, 12 months or something, in terms of people's association with what that means to say that they've trained as opposed to being active. Because there's been a lot of, and maybe it has just actually flared up over Christmas, maybe a little bit, especially as the kids have been off from school. The term I hear a lot of is I should have trained. I should have trained. And we talked about shoulda, coulda, wouldas. And what happens when you say should, you're really telling yourself off for something if you say you should have done that. That's like a very parental way of telling yourself off. But actually, the main thing is it's trained, right? I should have trained. Should have trained. And there's an attachment in some cases, when I explore it with a client, of guilt to the fact that they have not, in their perception, we'll say, trained, right? So what does that mean to train? Okay. Now, a lot of people, I would say, would have loved to keep the same routine as they had for themselves. So be able to leave their home, go to the gym, train, come have their own time, wait for the kids, wait for the family, and then come home and then come back to bedlam. In some cases, not all cases, right? There's also kind of, I think, and this is me speaking as a coach when I talk to people about this, and also as a client, there's kind of like a sense of pride about saying, yeah, I was able to train. Yeah, I've trained. I have trained. When somebody does like a online webcast or their own program at home, like, yeah, I've trained. I have trained. There's like this sense of pride that even in this situation, they have an outlook to be able to say they have trained. And it's almost like there's a pride around it that they have that option in the environment we're in. So it's like they say to friends, yeah, I trained this weekend. Yeah, I've been trained 4 times this week. I can hear it in clients' voice when they say it, like, yes, I've trained. Right? They love being able to say it. And understandably so, right? Being able to say, I have trained is fantastic. I'm not saying that it's not, okay? But what does it do, though, when, hey, Layla, oh, I've done it in ages. Got sidetracked then by load of joining. What happens then when somebody isn't able to train in the sense that they understand, that they're not able to set aside enough time to ring fence exercise, right? What happens? There's almost like, and this again comes down to language, there's almost a tug of war between it's training or nothing, right? Because in the head, if it's not the real deal, I'm doing bunny ears for those listening back, the real deal, if it's not the real deal in the sense that they perceive training to be, where it's selected 40 minutes, where they do a warm up, a cool down, oh, whatever it is, right, we'll do the actual whole class online. They perceive that it's not training, therefore it's invalid. And therefore, if they're not doing that, then they're not training because they believe it's all or nothing, however they look at it. The thing is, right, this is where coming active comes into it. I want to keep saying activewear. Activewear. However, true point, we have all been in activewear most of this year, whether or not we've been active or not, or non-active wear it's being called now. Have you seen that? Non-active wear. Love it. Point I'm making though is that being active is in essence still burning calories. Now, whether or not you entitle it to be training, whether or not you entitle it to be burning calories is by the by. The outcome is still the same. Being active, as in moving your limbs, not in a kind of like way, well, that's what you do. Moving your limbs in some degree burns calories. Yes, Leia's saying Dancing with Rose is training. Yes, it is. If you deem it to be so. Now, the honest thing is, actually, you want to flip it and say, actually, because this is what happens where I've been testing with a few clients. The thing is, if I was to say to a client, okay, there's 2 different things, right? If I said, and I use clients, you might understand this if I pose these questions, right? I need you to train 4 times this week. That's pressure. kids are at home, Helen. I don't have any time. I'm working at home. Then you got train 4 times. If I say, okay, I'd like to focus on being active 3 to 4 times this week, so less pressure. Now, the client's interpretation of that, or how active that is, doesn't really matter. The point is that I'm asking them to be conscious of increasing their general activity on more than one occasion during the week, except the pressure of which clients end up putting on themselves or perceive as being put on by the coach or by someone else is like completely reduced. And the thing is about it is, if I say, I would like to be active as much as you can, or 3 or 4 times this week, that'd be awesome, right? That's flexible. It's not like it must be an hour 4 times. I'm saying it's like, okay, be active. What is active? So Liz already said dancing with Rose is training. Yes, I have a client, love this client. She does Just Dance with her son on every other day, really, more or less, right? Now, she might not always be able to make a Met class because she's got 2 kids at home. But tell you what, she does Just Dance, she's active, she burns some calories, and she's losing weight. She's doing phenomenally, actually. And now, if I said to her, you must train 4 to 5 times this week, I know I say, well, you're going to be doing dance this week at some point. Yeah, okay, cool. Right, less pressure, less stress, more flexibility, fits around her family life, fits around when a opportunity arises rather than structuring it and forcing it into place, and involves the family, right? That's an important thing. Okay, so if you're struggling to train, that is training, if you're struggling to train, Layla's example is perfect, but there are other examples as well. I had one just from somebody today, a client with kids on half term, who said, do you know what, I'm not doing Met class this week. I could get out at 6:30 in the morning and wake them all up, like I have been for the last month, or I can let everybody lie in, and what I'll do is make sure I'm active with them, leave the house, go out and play outside, go for walks with the kids, and make sure that happens every day and we're active. I'm like, that is a win. That is a win. That is a win. And also, is that client successful? Yes. At the end of the day, being active still burns calories as an outcome, as a factual outcome. It's only psychologically how you attach something to the word that defines how frequently you end up doing it. At the end of the day, people feel a lot better when they're active, as opposed to whether or not they train 4 to 5 times a week. Although, yeah, if you get it, you tick it, great, fantastic. I'm not poo-pooing training in any way. You know, I'm not. I am calling my jogs every day a training session. Now, is it traditionally probably a training session? I do it because I'm like, I trained. I jogged. I like fast walked for 15 minutes, okay? It makes me feel better just that I've done it. If I'm active, I make sure I've been out and been active during the day. It makes me feel better. I'm no different than any clients in that sense. So if you're struggling to fit in training sessions, you're like, life is too busy, I cannot get onto Met class, that's okay, all right? Don't pressurise yourself to do a catch-up. Don't pressurise yourself to get out of bed earlier, all right? Focus on what you can find fun with your family or significant other that is active and involves some movement. I've told some people, tell you what I did last weekend. I went roller booting over Valentine's weekend, early Valentine's present. I was like, do you know what, let's be active together the weekend, going roller booting. And all my limbs are still attached to my body, which is great news, right? It's just looking at things that are fun, right? Look at the things that can be fun, that aren't so serious as training. Right? Sometimes we'll take off the pressure and is a nice segue. The more active you are, the better you'll feel. From experience, the more a client is active, the more they will eventually segue into doing more consistent, structured training and less flexibility around it, and more time probably as well. The reality is a lot of us have to accept where we are in terms of time, in terms of pressure, in terms of stress. So if you're piling on your stress to yourself saying, I must train, if I'm not training, I'm failing, then consider that being active has the same outcome. It burns calories, it's more flexible, it's more forgiving on yourself, right? I think we'll need a bit of that at the minute. So please, if you are using that language of I should have trained, think about how you're going to be active rather than how you're going to train. Start to ease off on yourself and discuss it with your coach as well, because we always have ideas of being active. I love it. Do they remember, hey Prissy, do they remember I loved this life? At some point, I mean, we're episode 251, by the way, just to throw that out there. It was 250 Monday. I remember typing after going, oh my God, 250 episodes, what the heck? Well, I didn't use that word, obviously, but we're live. There was a live I did. Wow, it would have been early doors. Got to be in the first month or so. It talked about different ways of exercising. And actually, in language now, I always said being active. Does anyone remember the skipping rope phase and hula hoop phase? The skipping rope phase. One of my clients spent $29.99 on skipping rope. I don't actually know what it did. I'm still at a loss. I'm not allowing myself to look to find out though, because I think I'll be really disturbed by life. However, there was a period of time in which, very early on, there was people doing lots of things with their kids that was active. There was also, in fairness, weather-based. Nazarene remembers, yeah. Do you remember the hula hoop phase? Who's hula hooping still? Anyone? No. However, if you were somebody, actually, funnily enough, if you were somebody who was active and it was weather dependent, because we're a little bit later on in the year, only by a few weeks, let's be honest, revisit some of that for you as well. What was it that kept you active during that time, really early on, where we're like, do anything to be active? Because that stuff still exists, right? That stuff still kept you going in the first section of life when we're in that lockdown, and we'll still do the same now, right? It's really warm today. It's a lot warmer than it has been anyway. I hope that rope made in it. No. If I was paying £30 for a skipping rope later, I want it to make me all 3 courses, if I'm honest. I'm sure if you went on to eBay, but 2 weeks later, everyone would be trying to sell off their skipping rope at the rate of knots, no doubt. However, whatever floated people's boats at the time, like, if you got a skipping rope that you pay 30 quid in the back of the cupboard, you get that bad boy out. Come on, get your money's worth. Be active with it. Or give it to your kids at least. Right, so quick recap. I should have trained, right? Telling yourself off, I should have done this, I should have done that. It's a lot of guilt attached to the word training if regular exercise is not happening. There's a pride in saying, I have trained. It's like, I've trained 5 times, right? And I'm the same, right? I'm the same. If I know I've trained, I'm like, yeah, I've trained. There's such a sense of pride. And yet, though, on the flip side, when it doesn't happen because life is changing like it always does, in terms of pressures at home and time, etc., what happens is it's almost like it's training or nothing. If I'm not going to a structured class, or I'm not sectioning time to do this in particular, hey Tripty, if I'm not doing this in particular, then somehow I'm not really giving it justice. I can't be proud of training if training is not happening in the sense that I want it to be, or wished it could be if we're in a different environment, right? So think about taking the pressure off yourself. How is it that you can be, hey Mel, how can you be active, right? Active over saying it has to be training? Because fundamentally, like I said earlier, at the bottom line of all of it, you are burning calories by purely moving around. Now, however you choose to move around, dancing, skipping, hula hooping, walking, playing with the kids in the back garden, whatever it is, right? As long as you think of times where and see opportunities where you can be active, essentially, that is still more productive towards your goals of health. God, that's a nice word. That was diplomatic for me, wasn't it? And from experience as well, again, if you're really far away from consistent training in a structured form, the more you are active, the better you will feel. The more you remember what it feels like, right? And how much then you want to pull into more structure. As I'm going to say it, as life starts to change again, right? The more active you are now, the easier transition it is for you to then get back into more of a routine, etc. when you can, right? So that is activity versus training. And if you need some ideas, I said, about how to be active, just have a think about last year. Or, as I said, dig out that skipping rope. And Nazarine's like, I did lots of skipping with laughy faces. Does that mean you're not now, Nazarene? I just can't imagine why not. Using it as a whipping device. Do your schoolwork. Right? But there was a hula hoop phase as well. Gosh, so much to run on an eBay at that point, right? Now, tomorrow, I got cracker tomorrow. Tomorrow, which is interesting as the seasons are about to change soon, I'm doing a live on seasonal weight loss. What the heck is that, Helen? Well, seasonal weight loss. I'll give you a bit of an insight now. little sneaky peeky. Seasonal weight loss, you may identify with this, is where your weight seems to follow a trend through certain points of the year, but you're not quite sure of the reason why. Emoji. Why is this happening? I'm going to explore that tomorrow and give you some reasons to why it may be happening, and also, if it is you, give you some insight into how common it is that you're not on your own. So join me for that seasonal weight loss tomorrow at 5. So it is raining here. I'm still going to go out for another walk. So whatever you get up to tonight, however active or inactive where you are, enjoy, and I'll see you tomorrow.